Hey guys, thanks for joining me for Play Games. My name is Lance, and today I'm teaching you how to play Wayward. This is a brand new game from IDW Games. It is a 1 to 5 player game that takes roughly an hour to 2 hours to play, and is a fully cooperative game, so everybody is working together to defeat the scenario you've chosen to go on. So in the game itself, for centuries, the yokai have controlled the supernatural side of Japan, and the yokai and the humans have had a delicate balance throughout this time. This balance has started to shift with the Wayward children, which is a small select group of teenagers that have developed supernatural abilities and powers, and the yokai are dead set at not allowing these humans to gain control, so they are out to destroy them. So that's where you guys come in. Each player is going to choose one or more characters they want to play as, and then they'll choose the scenario that they want to play, and each scenario is going to provide different bosses that they're going to go up against. So as always, if you find these videos helpful, if you like what I do, please consider hitting that like button and subscribing to my channel, as it really does make a big difference, helps me to continue to grow and produce these videos. And if you want to stay up to date on all my videos, also consider ringing that bell so you get notifications anytime I release new content. So let's head to the table and I'll teach you guys how to play. There are 3 different color attack and defense die included in Wayward. We have white, yellow, and black, with white being the weakest and black being the strongest. You're also going to notice there are little flame circles around some of the numbers, and these will be counted as 1 hit in certain conditions. With the black die, you're also going to notice the white flames that encompass the entire number 7, and this is going to count as 2 hits. And I'll explain how these work a little bit later. The first set of cards I'm going to go over are the yokai, and there are 3 different levels. We have green, which are the weakest, blue, which are medium, and red, which are the strongest. Each yokai card is going to list the name of that yokai at the top, and then there's going to be 3 stats underneath that. The first one is the green dot, which is the location that yokai will be placed on the game board when revealed. The second is the yellow dot, which is the number of upgrade points that yokai will grant when defeated. And the third is that yokai's defensive value, in correlation with the dice that are listed in the top corner here. So when we roll these 2 whites, we're going to get its defensive range between 0 and 6. I'll cover this a little bit more later. Finally, at the bottom of each card is going to be that yokai's power, which is going to be triggered at 3 different points, depending upon what is listed. So first off, we have when revealed. So if this yokai is on the top of a stack when revealed, you'll resolve its effect. This one here is an ongoing, so if this is at the top of a stack, this effect is always in play. And finally, on this one, on a tile refresh, which if this is on the top of a stack, then you'll resolve it on the tile refresh. I'll explain how these work and stacks and all that a little bit later. The second set of cards we have are the event cards, and there'll be 1 deck of these for each of the bosses included in the game. When these cards are revealed, some of them will come into play immediately and resolve the effects. Other ones will only come into play on the tile refresh, and the final ones will come into play and will last the entire round until the next event covers them up. And the last set of cards we have are the item cards, and this will have a combination of equipment that the players can equip and use once per round, and items that are single use and will be discarded after their effect is resolved and used. Moving over to the weave board, it is going to be broken down into 3 colors: white, yellow, and black. At the beginning of the game, you're going to place the weave track marker on the very first space, and then throughout the game, as the weave takes damage, you're going to move that track along, or the marker along that track. If it ever reaches the last space on the black side, then the players have lost as the weave is completely come undone. Now, you're also going to notice on there that there are numbers on each of the locations, and I'll explain what those are more later during the player's turn. There's also 6 locations in the middle of the weave board, and based on the scenario you've chosen to play, each boss is going to have their own set of tiles. Some of the bosses are going to have additional tiles, and I'll explain how you select those in a minute. The top of each of the tiles is going to list the name of the boss it is associated with, and then a basic idea of what that tile does. In the corner here is the number of power points that that tile grants when a player selects it, and then when that tile will be used, and I'll explain these little brackets here on the side. And then finally, at the bottom of the tile is a greater explanation of what that tile does. So for example, with this one, it says spawn green yokai, and then underneath that is a explanation of that, which is to spawn 1 green yokai. Finally, we have the brackets here, and you'll notice some tiles have white, some tiles have white yellow, and white yellow black, and other tiles only have the other colors. So throughout the game, as the weave takes damage, when it crosses over to a new color, you're going to check all of the tiles. If they do not contain that new color in them, then they are going to be removed and replaced. So for example, with these, they only have white. So when it moves into yellow, these 2 will be eliminated and removed from the game. And then you'll check the tiles that you haven't used yet, and so these have yellow in them, so they will be brought over. And again, that'll happen again if it crosses over to black. We'll look through, and any tile that does not have a black square, such as this one, will be removed, and any new tile will be put in that has a black square. The one other important note is that once a tile or the token crosses over to a new color, there's no way to bring it back to a previous color. If you have a way to reduce the weave's damage, you can reduce it up to the minimum where that line crosses. So once you cross into yellow, you can never go back to white. You can go, if you were here in the yellow and you recover a point, you can move back there, but you can never go back beyond the color that you're at. Moving over to the player boards, let's take a look at a breakdown. So first off, we have the character's name and their special ability that they have. We also have a list of their actions that they can use and the cost of those actions on the side, and I'll go into more detail about this during the player's turn. At the bottom of the card, we have the number of hit points that character has, and then we have their 3 upgrade tracks. Finally, on the edge here is the energy track, and we'll track the number of energy points that player has. For player setup, you'll gain the 3 cubes of that player's color and place 1 on each one of the bottom tracks. You also gain a energy tracker, and this will track the number of energy points that player has. And finally, you'll gain the token that'll mark where your player is. The last thing I want to go over before moving into setup is the board itself. So the board is going to be broken down into 5 different locations, and each location will have a number above it. There's also going to be a 6th location, which is the shopping district, which you can go to heal wounds for 2 energy each, or shop for items. Now each location is going to be considered adjacent to the location to its left and right, and with locations 1 and 5 they are considered adjacent to each other. From there, let's move into setup. So the first thing is to place the weave track marker out on the very first space of the weave. The next step is to choose the scenario you want to go on. Each scenario is going to list any special setup instructions, and on the back side of that card is also going to list the objectives of that card in order to win the game, and any rule changes that are going to apply for this scenario. From there, then you're going to gather up all of the different things you need for it, and each of these is going to be outlined in the rulebook as well. So for example, with our scenario here, we're going to have a boss tile, the 6 proxy tokens, the 9 counter tokens, and finally the event card deck. So unless the scenario says otherwise, go ahead and shuffle up each one of the yokai decks separately and place it out. And with our particular scenario, it's going to tell us to draw 7 green yokai cards, 2 blue, and 1 red. So we'll do that real quick. From there, we'll go ahead and shuffle these up, and then we'll go ahead and place them out on the locations based on the cards. So again, each card is going to have that location in the top corner, and this is going to create the stacks of enemies. The next step is for us to grab our proxy tokens and shuffle those up, and then we're going to place out one of those in each of the bottom locations. And again, this is going to be based on the scenario you've chosen to play, as each scenario is going to have some different setup steps. The remaining proxy token will be returned to the box and not revealed, and will not be used for this game. We can also shuffle out the item cards and place those out. Place out 1 black cube up in the top spot on the attack track on the 0. And we can place out all the dice we're going to be using for the game as well. We can also place out all the tokens, and for this video I'm going to be using the Crystal Fortress pod sets. If you're interested in finding out more about those, go ahead and check the link in the description below to check out their website. Finally, for our boss, we'll place out his boss card and his event deck, and then we'll also set up our weave board with his counter tiles as I already outlined. And then we're ready to move into player setup. So each player is going to choose a character they want to play as, or they can choose more. It's totally up to you. Then once the players are set up, we'll place our characters, and all the characters are going to go in the location that has the highest number of yokai dice listed on all the cards. So we have 2 locations with 5 and 1 location with 6. So that is going to be the location all of our characters will start at. If there's a tie in locations, such as if this location didn't have 6 and these 2 locations were tied, then we would look at the cards, and it would be the set that has the most black. If there's still a tie or the black aren't on there, then it is the most yellow. And if there's still a tie after that, then it will be the player's choice where they go. From there, then we're going to choose one of our players to be the starting player. So we'll have our player here be starting player, and he will receive the upgrade tile. And then finally, we'll flip over and resolve the first encounter card for this set. So with this one is just getting by until the next tile refresh. All the yokai grant 1 less upgrade point when defeated. So that'll come into play for the rest of this until the tile refresh, and I'll go over that in a little bit. From there, we're ready to move into the game. Wayward is played over an undefined number of turns. Starting with the first player and moving in a clockwise manner, each player will get to take a turn, and this is going to continue until either the players are defeated or they've met the objectives of the scenario they've chosen to play and are victorious. Moving into the players' turns. So starting with our first player and proceeding in a clockwise manner, each player is going to get to take a turn, and during a player's turn, there is a sequence of steps that must be followed in order. The first step in a player's turn is refreshing counter action tiles, and this step is optional most of the time. There is a couple exceptions to this. First, if all of the action tiles are flipped over to their used side, then you must resolve this step, and the other condition is if the only action tiles that are remaining are action tiles that you cannot perform. And in order to choose an action tile, it must be a tile that you can resolve the effect of it. So for example, if the blue yokai attack tile was the only tile that was still face up and we had eliminated all the blue yokai out on the board, we could not choose that tile because we cannot choose a location that has a blue yokai to attack. So in that situation, we must resolve the refresh the tile action step. So in order to do this, let's go ahead and go through this sequence. So there are 3 steps within this. So the first step is that we're going to check all of the yokai that are on the top of each stack, and only the top of each stack, and resolve any effects on those that happen when you refresh the tiles. So if we go through here, these 2 are ongoing, this one is when revealed, and finally with this one, it is on a tile refresh. So with this one, it says that this yokai gains a white die token. So we would add a white die token to this yokai's card because of the refresh. From there, then the second step is that we will look at the yokai stacks, and the stack that has the most dice symbols on it is going to attack the weave. So with this one having the most, we would gather up those dice, so we would need 5 whites and a yellow die. From there, we'll go ahead and roll those dice, and for each die that comes up with a flame symbol on it, it's going to count as 1 success, and if we have the black dice in there with the solid flame, that's going to do 2 successes on there. So each one of these is going to move the weave marker down 1 space. Now, if there are players in that space, then one of those players can choose to take that damage instead. And the player can take up to the maximum amount of health points that they have. Any additional damage beyond that will go to the weave as usual and move that marker down. From there, then the final step is revealing a new event card and resolving the effects if the event card triggers right away. Otherwise, you would just follow it just like normal, and then you could go ahead and flip over all of the tiles that have been used. And then you're ready to move on with the player's turn. The second step in a player's turn is to choose one of the action tiles and flip it over. So with our player here, he can go ahead and choose any one of these as long as he can resolve that tile again. Let's go ahead and choose the blue yokai attack tile. So we're going to get 6 energy from that, and then we'll flip over the tile and resolve its effect. So we'll choose one of the locations that has a blue yokai in it. So we'll choose this location, and that yokai is going to attack the weave. So we'll go ahead and give our die a roll based on what he has. And he did not roll a flame, so no damage is done to the weave. From there, then, we were ready to move into our player's turn where they can spend their energy to do different actions. The third step in a player's turn is using their energy to perform actions. So I'm going to take you through each one of these in detail. So the first one we're going to look at is movement, and during each player's turn, they're going to get 1 free move that they can use, and they can move anywhere they want on the board. It does not have to be to an adjacent location, it can be anywhere that they want on the board. Now, after that, then you can take a look at the player's actions section, and additional movement is going to cost them a number of energy points as listed on their card. And they can do this any number of times during their turn, at any point during their turn. Now, the one exception to this is if a player is fully wounded. In that situation, then a player will lose their free movement until they are at least partially or fully healed, in which case, at that point, then they'll regain their free movement. The second action we're going to take a look at is an attack action. In order to perform an attack action, our player is going to select a number of points of energy they wish to spend to perform that attack. So let's go ahead and say we spend 4 points of energy. Then we're going to move our cube on our attack track up to 4. And then we can select any or all of the yokai and boss tokens that are on our space to attack. So with our character, let's go ahead and attack the 2 green yokai. In order to help us decide this, we can also look on their cards, and it'll show the range of defense that yokai has. So we only spent 4 attack or 4 energy for our attack, so we can look at these, and the green yokai has a defense of 2 to 10, so a 4 is not a good odd for that one. So again, we'll select those 2 green. So each one of them will gather up the dice for it, and you can set them off to the side if you want, but make sure you don't change the order of the stack, as that is very important for the game. And then our second one we have is a white and a yellow. From there, we'll go ahead and give those a roll, and make sure that you don't roll them all together. Keep them separate for each of the yokai. So our first guy got a 1, and our second guy got an 8. So at this point, once we've resolved that, then we can look on our character card or any abilities that we have or equipment or items that we have for rerolls or other effects that'll alter this. Let's go ahead and say, for example, with our character here that he did have 1 reroll. Any rerolls that he has can be used each time he performs an attack action. So if we had multiple rerolls, we can use them in each of our attacks. And for each reroll we have, we can choose 1 die to reroll on that attack. And we can keep doing this until we run out of rerolls. And each reroll, like I said, is once you have it, you always have it, and you'll get to use it for each attack that you do. Once you have done all of the stuff you wish to do, then you're going to spend your attack power to defeat the enemies. If you don't have enough attack power to defeat all of your enemies, you have to choose which ones you want to defeat. So for example, with our character here, we have 5, which is too much. We only have 4 to spend, so we can only defeat the first guy here. So we'll go ahead and remove his card, and then we'll gain a number of upgrade points based on his upgrade value. Now we do have the event card in effect that's going to drop the upgrade value for each enemy we defeat by 1. So we only get 1 upgrade for this. So our character that has the upgrade token is going to gain 1 upgrade, moving one of his token or his cubes up 1 space on one of his tracks. So we could either choose to gain a reroll, or we could move up here and gain 1 power immediately. And each time you move onto a space, you immediately gain that power, but that is a one-time only thing, so you wouldn't get that additional power every round. So let's go ahead and take the reroll, and then this card is discarded. The upgrade token is going to be passed to the next player to the left, and so if we would have had a second with this card, it would have given us 2 upgrades. This player would have gotten to select an upgrade as well, and then this would have been passed to the third player, but because of the event, that wasn't the case. From there, any yokai that were not defeated are going to attack our character, and for each flame that was rolled, or each die that comes up with the flames on it, it is going to do 1 damage to our character, so he would take a number of points of damage. Now, if a character cannot take any more damage, if he was fully wounded, any damage that he cannot take is going to go to the weave, and is going to do double damage, so that would count as 2 points to the weave. So then our player will take a damage from that, and we'll move that gauge down by 1. So we still have 3 attack power, so at this point we could choose to move and attack another enemy, or we could choose to attack this space again, or we could save that energy for later turns. Now the other important thing is that we have to resolve any effects when a card is revealed if it says so. So with this particular yokai, it does have a when revealed effect, and it says you're going to choose 1 character. That character loses 2 energy or receives 2 wounds. So again, it could be our character in front of us or another character as the card states. And this is going to have to be resolved each time that an enemy is revealed if it has a reveal effect. So if we had another card come out on top of him and then we defeated that one, this would trigger again. Or if we reorganized the stack by an ability or effect, it would also trigger. From there, if we have any energy remaining and we don't choose to do any other attacks, then that energy is going to be lost at the end of the turn, and we will not gain it back. We cannot choose once we spend it on an attack to gain any energy back from that attack. It is all lost. Another option we have is to activate any abilities on our character card by spending the energy requirements for those. So for example, with our character here, he has a Spirit Punch that's going to cost him 5 energy, and that's going to allow him to permanently change a die icon on a yokai card to the next lowest card. So for example, if we wanted to hit this yokai here, we could drop that yellow die to a white one, or this red one here, we could drop his black to a yellow if we were in that space. In order to do that, it would cost us 5 energy to do so, and we can trigger that any number of times as long as we have the energy to spend. And each character is going to have different abilities that they can activate, or potentially cards or other effects as well. Now, if our character is in the shopping district, they can also choose to activate the abilities on here. So our character could heal wounds, 2 energy for each wound, or he could shop in for items, and he would choose a number of energy he wishes to spend and draw that number of cards, and then he gets to keep 1. He can also choose to spend 2 additional energy to keep a second card. So for the example with this one, we could say we'll spend 1 energy and we get to draw 1 card, and then we get to keep that one, which is a good card. The last option our player has is unraveling the weave, and you can do this 1 time during your turn. In order to do this, you're going to drop the weave token down 1 space, and then the space it moves into, the number on that space, you will gain that number of energy. So with our player here, if he chose to unravel the weave, he would gain 1 energy immediately that he could use during his turn. The other important thing is that is the only time that energy is going to be given to players. Otherwise, if the weave takes damage, the players are not going to receive energy for that. Again, a player can choose to do any or all of these actions in any order they want to anytime during their turn. Now, once they are done, either out of energy or choose not to spend any more energy, then their turn is ended, and then it'll move to the next player in clockwise order to take their turn. Now that I've covered all the rules, let's go ahead and take a look at the rest of our player's turn, and then we'll go ahead and take one more turn to give you guys a good idea how the game plays. So let's go ahead and move into the rest of our turn here. So again, we're going to go ahead and do that attack. We'll go ahead and spend the 4 energy and move that gauge up. And then again, we're going to go after those 2 green yokai and see what we can get here. So again, we'll roll, and a 3, and a 3. So I'm going to go ahead and defeat this guy here by spending 3 of my power and removing his card. And with that, it's going to give me 3 upgrade points. Again, the event card is going to drop that by 1, so we're going to get 2 upgrade points. So I'm going to go ahead and spend 1 to gain that reroll, and then I'll pass my upgrade token to the next player, and she's going to upgrade her section by 1 as well. And then she'll pass that upgrade token to the last player. And then we'll resolve this one. So he attacks me, and he's going to do 1 damage. So at that point, I have 1 energy left, so I could move somewhere else. I could try to attack him again and see if I get lucky. I do have that reroll now. So yeah, let's go ahead and try that. We'll go ahead and attack him again and see if we get lucky with that reroll. And we do. We got a 1 on our 1 reroll. So we'll go ahead and move that down, and then we'll resolve our effect on this. So again, he is reduced by 1. So our player here is going to gain 1 upgrade. And so she'll take that as well. From there, then we have a new guy that was revealed. So it says on a tile refresh. So we don't have to worry about that right now. And there's nothing else my player wants to do. He's going to go ahead and hold on to those 2 points of energy for now. So then we'll move to the next player in clockwise order. So our player over here will go ahead and start out the turn by selecting a card to activate. And so let's go ahead and spawn a blue yokai and get 5 points. So we'll move her gauge up by 5 and reveal a new yokai. So this one's going to go in the second space. And again, its effect does not trigger because it's on a refresh. So then we're going to go ahead and move into the rest of our player's turn. So at this point, this player works a little bit differently. She has bonuses for attacks, and it adds strength right to the attack when she performs it. So that's going to be really useful. So from there, let's go ahead and perform an attack action on this location. We'll go ahead and spend all 5 energy. So we'll move it up there. And she does get +1 attack strength for that. So she'll actually move it up 1 more space to 6 for that, since she's attacking green yokai. And then she's going to go ahead and select which one she wants to go after. So she'll go ahead and go after the top one and the one underneath it. So we have 2 whites and a white and a yellow. So we'll go ahead and roll that one first. Oof, that's rough. And the one underneath it on a 5. So she's going to go ahead and choose the 5-1 to defeat, as she doesn't have any rerolls. She does have an ability that lets her reroll if she has energy to spend, but she does not. So she'll go ahead and drop that down to 1. And then the other enemy is going to attack her for 2 points of damage. So she'll take 2. And another character cannot choose to take that damage. And the same goes true if our character was maxed out and it went to the weave. Another character in that space could not take that damage either. From there, we also have to eliminate that enemy that we defeated. So this guy will come out, and he's going to give us 2 upgrades. And again, that's going to reduce that by 1. So our character over here, again, is going to gain an upgrade. So he's going to go ahead and move this up 1, and he'll gain an energy for that immediately. And pass the token. And our character does have a free move that she can do still. As she doesn't have any energy remaining, there's not much else she could do. But let's go ahead and move her over here. From there, then it would move over to our next player. And again, like I said, this is going to continue going from player to player until the objectives are met. With this particular scenario, we're trying to defeat the 5 proxy tokens on locations. In order to do that, we have to eliminate all the yokai in a location. So let's go ahead and say that this blue was eliminated. And then our player or players that are in the location can collectively spend 10 energy to eliminate that proxy token. In which case then they would flip it over and resolve any effects on it, and then that location is eliminated. So no yokai can spawn on there, and any characters on there must move off during their first action and cannot move on there anymore. Now if a yokai would be spawned in a location that has been eliminated, then they will be spawned on the next adjacent location that is higher than that location. So if we had a yokai on 3, we would be spawned on 4 instead. And the same goes for if we eliminated 5, any yokai would be spawned onto 1. Now, if we're able to eliminate the 5 proxy tokens before the weave marker works its way to the end of the weave track, then we have won the game. Well, I hope you guys found that video helpful. If you have any questions or comments, leave those in the comment section below and I'll do my best to answer them. As always, thank you so much for taking the time to watch my videos and leave me feedback on them. I do really appreciate it, and I do take into account everything you guys say to make the best possible videos. And if you enjoy these videos, if you like what I do, please consider hitting that like button and subscribing to my channel, as it really makes a big difference and helps me to continue to grow. Until next time, I'll see you guys later.